Okay, so we're going to do today is we're going to look at phrases number 1 and 2 in the solo open fire. So let me bring the camera down and let's take a look. So here's phrase number 1. And actually, what he does in the Troy does in the second measure, he plays does what's called a pinch harmonic, but that's a little bit too advanced for a solo. Troy was a little nutty with applying some little bit too advanced techniques in the very first solo of his book. But so we're not going to do that. We're just going to hit the note, do a little vibrato. So the first phrase goes a slide. That little squiggly line on the 7 means slide up to the 7. I start right here, right around the 5th fret or so. It doesn't have to be exact, but I like to do that. Then you go up to the 5th fret on the G string. So 7th fret on the D, 5th fret on the G, and then there's that little 8th note rest there. It looks like a 7. That means you got to stop the note. Then you go ahead and then hit the 5 again. Put those little squiggly lines there. Those are vibrato. So that means you take that note, you do a little bit of shaking. And basically what you do with vibrato is you don't want to take your finger and kind of try to move that up and down. You know, it's going to be all awkward and it's not going to be consistent. So what you need to do is you need to keep your finger like almost like a stationary position. You're kind of keeping that right where it is. You're going to take this part of your hand, put it right up against that fret. So you have everything nice and stable, your thumb up here, and then what you can do is you kind of like, you keep this all stiff pretty much. You know, you don't move your fingers at all, it's going to stay just like that. And then what it is you're doing a little bit of, you can either pull it down or pushing up, but you're gonna do a combination of doing that, and then also, you know, a little bit of wrist movement. I'm doing a little bit of pushing and then a little bit of wrist movement too. Now, it's really important that you know that when you do a vibrato, you don't want to, you don't have to keep playing, pushing and pulling all the time. What you do is you can do this in reverse too, pulling, but I'm gonna do it with pushing up, and then I'm keeping enough pressure so it's still ringing out, but I let the string just come down to its original position. I'm not going up and then pulling it down. I'm just going up and letting the string kind of come down on its own, but still making sure I give enough pressure so the note keeps ringing out. See how everything is really, it's not moving at all. All it's moving is I'm just bringing it up and down, and my wrist is rotating back and forth a little bit. Do nice and slow one, or you can some quick ones. So that's basically how vibrato works. It can be a little bit tricky when you're first starting out, but put some work into it. It's going to be worth it. So you have vibrato, then you have a rest again, so you got to stop it, and then you're going to play 7, 5, 7, so 7, 5 on the G string, 7 on the D string. Then what you need to do is do this thing called a string roll, where you're going to lay your finger down to hit that note below on the G string, and then you're going to go over here to the 5th fret on the G string. So how you do this roll is you're going to hit a note like normal, but then what you do is you just plain lay your finger down flat to hit that note. So Yeah, it's not on your tips or anything. It's more on your fleshy part. But for this point, because you never want to be playing that normally. But for this point, it's just better to go ahead and do that, because then you can keep the note really ringing for much longer. Or if I lift it up, that sounds a lot choppier. But if you can do this, then it's ringing out until the very, very last second. So it's basically playing this note like you would normally do, but then laying it down flat to hit that note below. Practice a bunch of those. And yep, so that's a good technique to really work on. So then we put this all together. We have just do it like that. Do a whole bunch of those. And then what you want to do eventually, though, is you want to palm everything except for that very last note. So you're going to be going, think of it vibrato. The very last note you let ring out and give it vibrato. Yep. And when you do the vibrato, make sure you have this back far enough. So here how it's still ringing out. It's not over here. Sounds dead. You don't want that. You want this note to just have a little slight bit of a ring to it. So when you do that, really listen to that deadness if it's dead. And then if it is, that means your hand is too far up. You gotta bring it back and make sure it just has a little bit of a ring. Yep, and that's how that one works. So then you want to put these together. 3, 4, 1. Yep. So now here's the tricky part: is the rhythm. The rhythm goes 2/8 notes. So we're gonna take this do this on one string, low E string. So you have 1 and then we have an 8th note rest. So that's 2, but we're gonna stop on the 2. 1 and 2, and then again it's 8th note. So we got to come right back in again on the and. So 1 and 2 and again 2/8 notes, then 8th note rest into an 8th note itself, actually playing something. 1 and 2 and. Yep. 1 and rest and. 1 and 2 and. Now that note is connected to a half note, and that's a tie, called a tie. So that one is going to be we play 1 and 2 and 3, 4. So we're playing on the and, letting it ring over the 3, 4, because that second half note is tied to the first note. So it's 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Then you got to take that lick and you got to go 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 3, 4. 3, 4. And basically, you kind of get used to it. You can't just count it all out. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. But you kind of get used to what 8th notes sound like, so you know that's going to be taking up the first 3 eighth notes. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. So it's the 2 8th notes plus the rest. So if you know I'm going to play 1 and 2 and kind of get used to what that sounds like. Then after I hit that, I know it's attached to an eighth note. I mean a half note. So I'm just going to count 3, 4 because that's the last 2 beats of the measure. So it's boom, bum, 3, 4, 3, 4, and there you go. There's that first measure. Now the second measure, it starts out with a eighth note rest. So you do not play on 1. You got to start everything on the and. So it's 1 and 2 and 3, 4. So you know, you don't really have to count everything. It's basically all eighth notes all the way until the N, which is a quarter note actually, a dotted quarter note. So you go, just keep track of the 1, and then you kind of play the rest of it. So 1. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So you're hitting on an and then 4, because this is actually a dotted quarter note. So again, the dotted quarter note is worth 1.5 beats. So basically, no, you can say note if you want after that to kind of keep the correct spacing. So 1, no, you stop it. 1, no, then you stop it. So you want to keep working on that over and over again. 1, no, and then when you got that down, you put it all together. 3, 4, 1, no, and then you stop it. 3, 4, 1. So it's really, really important that, you know, in that second measure you stop it. Don't go 3, 4. Come in too early. You know, that's a very common thing for everybody to do. But just 3, 4, 1. Matter of fact, you want to bring it back a little further. That was a little bit too dead. That's what we really want more of. 3, 4, 1. So making sure you pause on the 1 of measure 2 is just incredibly important if you want to get this nailed. Otherwise, you're going to play the other part a little bit early, then you're going to come in the other part early, and you're going to be all out of sync. So you want to make sure you do that. So I think that's pretty good on phrase 1. What I'll do is we're just going to work on phrase 2 in another video because there was a lot to go over in this, and then phrase 2 we'll move on and we'll work on some more stuff. All right, we'll see you there.